I'm getting the hang of it. I think I'm recording, and
Nice.
man, out for a second. So what's going on with you, man? How's everything?
Not too bad. Things have been pretty consistent. Just, enjoying life, trying to learn some new things and keep it together. It's been cool and good.
You got any more dance conferences coming up?
There's no big conferences, but there's a disco thing happening in Richmond now. So, like, every weekend, there's a whole nother disco around. People are going back and trying to be John Travolta and doing all that kind of stuff. I'm like, what? Y'all bringing it back? Y'all really doing this? Okay.
Does it go with does it come with like costume, or is it just the dance more or less?
No.
Okay.
Just the dance part. There's like the main organizer guy who like dresses pretty appropriate for that to the 70s, but the rest of it, we're just here.
Okay.
So it's cool to see how everybody learns a little bit and has a little bit of fun, because technically it's a 4-count beat, and as long as you can dance in anything in 4, I'm like, you can 2-step this if you want, and if you don't want to 2-step it, then you could learn like the rest of the steps. But there's only 2 more steps, so it's not too crazy. Like, it's 4 counts, 4 steps. Step forward, step back, step back. You got 2 feet, 2 steps, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's not too crazy. All right, you learn to dance. Now go. So
I mean, it sounds interesting to me, but I don't know much about dance. It's interesting to me that you know about it, and people that dance can actually, there's where I come from, or not where I come from. My thinking about dance is like, hey, you just get out there and you do stuff. But apparently that's not the case. But
you can start there, but you don't have to stop. And that's the cool part, that people get out there and they start having fun, and they sometimes, change it up.
I would like to learn some dances. For whatever reason, when I think about dancing, I always think about it outside of the country. I never think about it in America. I don't know why that is. I think it's probably like a cultural thing, because I look at it as immersing myself in the culture, because I guess America does have some dances, but do they really? Like maybe swing or something like that, or I don't know.
Yeah, blues dance. I mean, hip hop is us, so we did all the break dancing.
Okay.
And
break dancing. Okay, I get that one.
Yeah.
But when I think of culture, when I think about America, I don't really think about a lot of culture when I think about America.
It's hard. You really have to dive deep down into like really regional, local areas for stuff. Like, we have a pretty big Chicago step community. And so, like, line dancers are pretty big.
Okay.
There's some people who have there's like breaking that's specific to like Brooklyn or Harlem. They do like a lot of wave-in, different styles like that. There's like a rave style that we came up with. There's trying to think like every local dance. There's a swing dance called Balboa that they do in like the Southwest. I think a lot of people do that. So I don't know if it's just Southwest specific. I don't know. Anyway, there are a lot of things that if you were really, really interested, you could probably dig down and see like, what is the dance that most people do from here? Because you remember back when like crip walking and heel tone was like big, like each city had like their own style. And it's like, I'm doing the, Baltimore style or the DC style or Miami style or, some random place in California style. I'm like, all right. People doing stuff. I don't know all the stuff. But that's okay.
There's definitely a dance culture in Baltimore. Might get put out by saying Baltimore. But yeah, I mean, I grew up with club music. But before I move from disco, I'm thinking, the 2 things I'm thinking about is, okay, maybe you need a little cocaine with this too.
It'll definitely keep you going, Gotta keep that energy up.
And then I can't believe that disco was so offensive that people actually started blowing up the records at Yankee Stadium.
Right?
Like, to me, like, wow. And I like some disco records. Might be a little too long at times.
It is repetitive.
10-minute long songs and 8-minute long songs, a little bit much, but
you just loop this in forever. Aren't you tired?
But at that time, like I said, when we started, so like kind of we ended off with art last week. And one thing I've forgotten about is my love for music. Like, I love music, but it's just so different today. The way that it sounds, even the way that it's mixed. I don't know if you catch it, but sometimes I hear songs and I'm just thinking, this is just too loud. Why is this so loud? And I don't mean in like volume. It doesn't even have to be turned up. The way that it's mixed, it's just piercing.
Yeah, but you can't even hear the people who are supposed to be singing, and all the notes are all balanced. I don't know what happened to where that was acceptable. It was like, this person mumbled half the song, And the part that they were singing was like so loud, it was overpowering the rest of the music. I don't even know if this is the right key anymore. Like I'm straining to hear what the rest of this song. How does this all fit together? A lot of things are fighting each other in the song. What's the purpose here?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, good beat though. I'm like, I mean, when you can hear it, I guess so.
Yeah. So being a kind of an audiophile, I don't know if I could call myself an audiophile, but I mix music, made music, done music by myself, all the parts of it. And I know that there are some things that are just too loud for me, but there are some things that are kind of next level when it comes to just mixes. When I'm thinking about just the sound, just tonally from music. When I can hear a deep bass and a vocal that's loud but not too loud but sits in the right place, and there's just space in the music, I enjoy that because that's a difficult thing to do. That's something that it's hard for me to even try to do from a mixing standpoint. But
I see.
The thing that I miss is from really that 60s, 70s music, even though sometimes their vocals would be a little low, the mid-range, you don't get mid-range anymore. There's no older songs had a warmth that was almost calming in a sense.
Right.
When you listen to it, if it's mixed right, there's just this smooth, silky, mid-rangey. The bass was not too loud, but just you heard it. It's silky. I can't even think of a better word. And actually, they use words like this in music. So sheer and silky and shine and things like that. But it's just a smooth, silky bass line to where it just, when I hear that kind of mix, it's just different. It changes the mood of everything. So
I mean, it changes things in a good way. I definitely think there was a big stylistic change throughout that time, but I think there was also an effort to capture a lot of the feeling you get from like a lot being there and listening to it live. I think that was a priority. And I like that when we had soul music. I think that was one of the main times where people actively paid attention to the audience and made sure that we were all on the same page by like singing in a way that was responsive. And I love that whole concept. Like, this is what I'm buying the music for. I'm buying the music to be moved in a way that allows me to experience what the performer is going through. And I love that when they were able to convey that with a warm tone and in a kind of a more immersive environment. When you were listening to it, it felt just more engaged, more present. So it's great. It's great when that happened. It seems like we're getting farther and farther away from that in a lot of our popular music. There's some off or avant-garde kind of music that they're doing, and like there are people who are trying to take some of the really helpful new artists and like put them in with like more remixed backgrounds so that there's some interesting things. Like there's a dude called Justin Vibes, and he remixes songs and tries to highlight music he likes from around the world and kind of put either danceable or at least more enjoyable like rhythms behind it. And so he does that so well that it makes me want to learn, like you're talking about how you like make music and mix it all together.
Yeah.
Like, did you use a program, or did you have like a little turntable, or how did you put things together?
When I finally got around to it, I started using the program. But it's a transferable skill. It's not. You don't need a specific thing. You just get some tracks, you get some sounds, you can record them, you can turn the volume up and down. There's different things that you can do. When you start getting into that world, for one, it's so expensive. It doesn't have to be, but it is. But once you start getting into that world, machines have characters. And when I was really getting into it, one of the things was it was past the push for digital. We were pretty much already almost all digital, but people were missing the sound from the analog. So everything became a digital simulation. I forgot what they call them, but I think simulation. They're trying to simulate the character of these analog machines and tools and things like that. So they would just introduce, like, it would be this thing called heat. They would have it in what is it called? A multi-processor, a multi-board, or whatever it is. Basically, you're just trying to introduce warmth or harmonics into the music. Because when it's clean, it doesn't actually, maybe it's different for this generation because they always had digital, but coming from that generation into digital, people were like, well, it sounds like it's plain or clean or something. It's just too clean. You need some dirt on it. You got to you don't have to put a little dirt on it, but that's just how people were used to hearing music. Think about it coming from records and tapes, 8 tracks, all of that stuff, all of these machines, all of these, the cleanliness of the head on the tape machine, the needle on the record player, all of these things introduce some sort of noise, the amplification from the amp, the hum, the hiss, all these different things, the microphone add up. It just builds up noise, and you're just trying to keep the noise low, but you can't kill it all when you're dealing with analog. But it also creates a character. That's the best way I could say it. And when you hear it, it's hard if you're not a detailed person. It's hard for you to really determine the difference. And it's hard for me to even learn the difference. But you can more feel the difference than actually know the difference in many cases. For some, when you first get into it. But when you hear something super clean and you're just like even there's certain mix boards that have certain characters to it. So like it's the SL 4000 is a very popular mix board, an API, and like a Neve. Like these all have different characters. So like a SL, it's got like punch to it, and it's got some warmth to it, but it also can get kind of screechy at the top a little bit. A Neve is really, really clean. It doesn't necessarily, when I think of Neve, I think of like all of those 1960s, 1970s mixes where the mid-range is just thick and creamy, but you don't necessarily, I don't think about like hard drums. Like when I think about hard drums, it's SL. When I think about rich and creamy or mid-range, I think about Neve. And then like API, I haven't really dealt too much with API before, but I mean, there's so many EMI. Yeah, I think not EMI, but yeah, I think it's an EMI. It's all types of, not too many, but there's some popular boards and some popular sounds that people try to go for.
And those connect like to every single kind of computer, or you got to like have a special board? Or like...
No, you can put it on any computer. Like these apps, I haven't even done it as much as I used to. But, I mean, stuff like GarageBand and Pro Tools. You can make music in Reason. You can make music in, that's one of the Logic, Apple Logic. I don't know about people that use Audition. That's Adobe. Ableton Live. I mean, I don't know. It's probably so many. What's another one I know of?
What was your favorite?
I mean, I just used Pro Tools so long that I can just go to Pro Tools and just use it. But these things, it's mixing and matching. It's like cooking, right?
Right.
There's so many tools that have similar abilities that overlap, and you may have. I learned how to, I guess, make music on the Triton. That's a keyboard. It's a program station, a workstation, and it's got sounds in it, and you can record and make loops and make sequences. I mean, it's got drums in it, but then back then it was on floppy disk or a hard disk. People still call it a floppy disk for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it's a sampler, but then you can connect a drum machine. So basically you would send the sounds from your whatever machine you're working on into a multi-track recorder or mixer and just record it somehow. But you could put a drum machine in a couple inputs. You could put a keyboard in. You can record some vocals. You could record anything and just send it into the multi-track.
And then somehow like process it?
Yeah, so multi-track is more, it's the way that you mix. So you sending in all of these different sounds on different tracks. And then when you've seen a mix board, when you see it on television and everything, and they have these huge mix boards, well, you got all these sounds, and you have total, when you record them and separate them, I guess you call them stems, and you separate, you can mix the sounds together how you want them to mix. They're not just like I put up one sound and all of the music. Like when you get it, or anybody, the end user gets it, you got one volume. You turn up all the music. If they didn't do a good job by then you screwed.
Yeah.
But with the mixer, he has the ability and the control to mix all of these different sounds together to try to make one whole, cohesive noise. So
You got a one big finished product. So I can see how that can kind of come together.
Yeah. And some people are better than it than others. I love it.
Right?
It's a skill set, but when you say skill set, I think technical, right? But some people are just savants at some of this stuff. And and there's different parts of it too. So some people can make the music, some people can write the music, or some people can mix the music. And it's a different thing.
Right.
It's not. Yeah. So mixing music you just have to dig into it a little bit, being an engineer, being a mixer.
Right.
Because I don't even know what that feels like to separate out the different processes, the different pieces. Like I'll make the music, then I'll mix the music, then I'll master the music. And that may or may not be a good thing. But nobody else gets to put their ear to it to kind of like tweak it and make it sometimes commercial ready, or just have an outside ear to say, oh, this is what this, like if you wrote a story and you went to a producer and they said, yeah, you wrote this stuff, but this is the story right here. And this is what we're going to work around, So yeah, man, I might have to go mix some.
Right. You see all that's legit.
I mean, it's an experience. Like I don't talk about it a lot because I haven't done it that much in a long time, but it's an experience that for me, it's almost, you can't come close to it, especially because most people probably encounter me on something about, rationality or thinking or something like that. But I'm not doing any of that in music. It's all feel,
I mean, there are some things that you can approach just cerebrally and like, okay, these things fit together. You can learn enough theory where you can do that. But there also is something to be said for, I enjoy the harmony. I enjoy the way this harmony makes me feel, and I enjoy the way this song structure or the way these certain notes come together. And that's just a preference. It's like, hey, this is the way I like these things. These things hit me well. I'm going to find ways to incorporate these as frequently as possible into the song, which is great.
Yeah. And I did want to talk about our hit. So it's good. So I think I'm thinking about like a Miles Davis, right? So
right.
A lot of people won't know. Well, I watched his story, and he went to school for music.
Like I find it funny when people are just like, these people are just famous for no reason. They're just these troubled artists, and who knows what happens. I'm like, they were around hundreds of other artists. Lots of people know what happened. They were there and watched him develop to be. Anyway, just him and Quincy Jones, I have so much respect for because I had no idea what it took to lead a band, and or even an orchestra. When I hear what they went through and what kind of training these schools kind of go through, I'm like, oh, they're not just like moderately better at this one instrument. Sometimes they're good at all the instruments, all of music. They're better at this than just. I thought they were just generally okay. They're better at this. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but to me, what the highlight is that you can be great naturally, but you could be great naturally, but you could be even greater when you apply yourself, theoretically and conceptually. And I think a lot of times people feel like that takes the feeling away, but like I'm trying to explain to you, it really doesn't, because those mind training creates instincts, which make your instincts better than just on the fly instincts. There's certain things that you just kind of learn on the fly, and there's certain things that you've trained your brain. And if you're just doing it in the moment, you still have that training. You're not necessarily thinking about it. It's a reflex. It's like
train.
Yeah.
And you can train your gut to be that much better. You'll be able to respond that much more quickly when things that you enjoy and want to make happen. You can make those things happen effortlessly, but also intentionally, instead of just like, oh, I sometimes do a good thing. It's like, no, I've practiced. I always do a good thing. This time I'm going to take those good things and stack them.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. And it applies to more than just what we're talking about right now, because it also applies to emotion. That's when
right.
And then, you could say that you could say that music is emotion. You can make that argument, right? But to train yourself to like you said, do the right, I wouldn't call it the right thing in the moment, but something that works in the moment, right?
Right. He of the consistent.
And you could do that with emotion too, right?
Yeah.
It's just, instead of just thinking, this thing cannot be contained and this is how I feel and it's just life. Man, maybe you just haven't attended to it well.
At least we're not done yet. It's good that we so far got here. Maybe we can move on and see what the next stages are.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull up a quote because I wanted to talk about. Just at least bring up this quote. Might take me a minute or two to get this up. I will say in the I don't know if you got anything right now, but watching myself and having to edit myself is making me have to speak better.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how all great people do. They go back to the tape and they're like, all right, I want to perform even more appropriately. I want to take it to the next level. What things do I like? What things can I improve upon? And I think that's always cool. When athletes go back to the tape, that's how they improve. And the same sense, like all great singers, all great speakers, everybody always looks back and says, the more times I practice, the better it is. And the more I notice, these are some of the habits that I like, I want to do more of. Some of these habits I don't love as much.
Right.
Let's see if we can roll that out, because that's not helping my point.
Right. And the additional piece to me is having to edit it, because if I have to go back a week to edit something because I'm just being too lazy, too many likes and too many and too many rights, and I could save my time just by improving the way I speak.
Yes. It's a win-win. It's like I can speak more clearly, get my point across more effectively, and I don't have to spend hours and hours editing this stuff out.
Right, exactly. But I wanted to pull up this, and I don't even know if it's going to translate. Wow. Okay, so this is two paragraphs. I'm reading this from the Romantic Manifesto.
Nice.
And so this is Rand, and she's like, as I have mentioned in Art and Sense of Life, all the other elements of painting, such as theme, subject, composition, are involved in projecting an artist's view of existence. But for this present discussion, style is the most important element. It demonstrates in what manner an art confined to a single modality, using exclusively visual means, can express and affect the total of man's consciousness. In this connection, I should like to relate with comment a personal incident. At the age of 16, for one summer, I joined a drawing class given by a man who would have become a great artist had he survived, which I doubt. This was in Russia. His paintings were magnificent even then. He forbade the class ever to draw a curved line. He taught me, I wish it was in front of me. He taught us that every curved line must be broken into facets of intersecting straight lines. I fell in love with this style. I still am. Today, I know the reason fully. What I felt then and still do was not, this is hard for me, but this is me. Those are the two paragraphs.
What do you think by this is me?
To me, those are concepts. This might be like, I don't know. It snaps for me as concepts, because you could take the perspective of the Terrence Howard's perspective as there are no straight lines, or you could take the straight line perspective of, hey, if you get close enough to these lines, and any means to be able to understand it and explain it as a human, they're going to be these straight things, I guess. Well, I look at it as almost like pixels on a television screen, on the screen. So if you get close enough on these pixels, it's a pixel. And you can't. So I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think it's great to have like an outside view of a writer looking at a more visual art and say, like, I like the way this artist thinks. I like the way he breaks things down. I like the way he looks into things. He looks at these curved lines as just a seamless connection of all these straight lines, which kind of like speak to a lot of the cognition or metacognition that she's looking into. Like he's explaining things and breaking things down in a way that she can understand and say, I can not only get that, I can embody that, and to communicate my sense of life through that same style, which I enjoy. Like that to me, was what makes INTJs one of the best teachers, because they'll dive real deep into one thing until they become an expert at it. And then they'll be able to break it down into seamless ideas. Like, this is the idea. Let's go all the way down to the concretes. These are all the concretes. This is what they have in common. And this next concept, this is how we applied it over here, over here, over here. This is what these concepts have in common. This is the principle, and this is the next way we're going to apply these principles. It works in these contexts. It doesn't work in these contexts. Let me show you and walk this out. I'm like, that is how all teaching should happen. Everyone, this is what I want. I don't want to have to come to you and ask, what do you mean? When is this applicable? Why is this true? How did you know that? Don't make me guess. I came here so that you would tell me what you learned. I don't want to have to do the learning in the sense of like having to find out all the information myself. Please give me something, and I will use that something and build upon that to try to associate that with something I know. Don't make me go find both the new thing and the thing I know and connect it to try to say like, oh, yeah. That kind of makes some sense now, because I'm going to miss stuff. There's no way for me to have the background to be able to effectively learn quickly. I like it when teachers can give you that overarching like theme. This is what it is. This is what it is in context. It's what it's for. It's why it works. Super helpful.
Interesting. Like I wouldn't have gone to the INTJ example, because that's definitely not my experiences. But I don't know. As far as the art piece, it just translates. It translates. I don't know. Right. I think it's almost like I'm reading it and I know it's supposed to be about art, but I can't see the art here. I understand the idea of no curved lines. That to me makes logical sense.
Matt,
I'm struggling. I'm struggling because I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, they're great artists who I know don't care about straight lines or curve. It is a curved line to them. It's all curved. Right. Everything is so. But when I think and I try to translate that into the way that I think, then I'm thinking like, oh man, these are the people who think that a principle changes at some point and understand the endless nature of a concept. A concept is a straight line. I'm just going to have to say it how I'm envisioning. All concepts are straight lines. There is no. It's almost like the idea of, oh well, individuals have rights until the group needs some things, and then once we get enough people together, then individual rights or that idea goes out the window. And I always try to. I don't know if I probably used this example before with you, because I always think of it like, okay, let's say you can't go straight from murder to killing. Like there has to be a third line there. So you got you get killing, but you can't just say, oh, this was a killing and this is a murder without another idea here. There is no. It's not like a bell. It doesn't just bend. You gotta have some idea of self-defense, right? That's self-defense is the intersecting line that, to me, would take, or the path that takes a murder into a killing. Or
there's use.
Yeah, but it doesn't bend. That's my whole point. These ideas, and that's the thing that I think is troubling for me about a lot of people, because a lot of people don't take ideas seriously, and that means to me that they don't have integrity. And the integrity is shown because they're always willing to bend the idea. Do you believe in this principle or do you not? Well, I kind of, sort of, but when people get upset, I see people's faces and, and
no,
they don't. So that's why I'm torn by this. And I don't know that drawing in straight lines makes you a better artist. I don't think that really. So maybe I'm taking it too literal, but I understand both sides. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think drawing in lines requires discipline. Discipline is necessary to make great art consistently. And I think that part is a healthy characteristic that I want to see embodied in anything I'm looking at. But I think as well, I think in this case, it's just a cool way that she found a way to connect how you express ideas, how you can communicate a sense of life in a way that was relevant for her.
I think that makes sense. And so as you're talking, like, question pops up in my mind. Interesting. Do you think Ayn Rand was a great fiction writer?
God, gosh, all how you define great. Like personally, she's great to me. I enjoy her fiction.
Right.
Her fiction has a lot of really helpful ideas in it that I needed, and I only could help, not only, but it was really helpful to hear the way that she expressed it. So I'm like, because of that, I'm like, that was a great thing. The work she did speaks for itself, and I'm like, that should be considered great. I'm like, yes, are her stories super clear, compelling, fun stories? I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't put it in the category of being a fun story that everyone should just kind of read as we're just going along. Like, this takes a significant amount of effort to both understand, process, and really pick up. It's not something you just skip through. And certainly if you were writing a fiction story and you're presenting it to go on screen, you wouldn't have so many speeches in there. I'm like, you can't have a 4 or 5 page speech. And she gets up to like 60 or 100 pages of just talking. I'm like, hey, this can't be in here if we want to consider this a fiction story, right? We all agree this is too long. This deserves its own book. Put it in its own book. I like this. This is super helpful. Good information. There's other ways to represent this than words, than these particular words. We should probably string these words out in examples. Anyway, all I'm saying is because of those speeches, it makes me really hard. It's hard for me to even recommend this book to other people when I have to warn them. I'm like, hey, you're going to begin this story, and then there's going to be a monologue, and this monologue is going to last for pages. So don't show up expecting to be generally entertained and just not have to think at all. There's going to be some times when you're going to come against something that's a very unique Ayn Randian thing. Like, anyway, so I think that's something that I have that's something that gives me pause when I'm like, is she a great fiction writer? I'm like, she's a good writer. And she says a lot of really good things. She says some great things. Would I consider every fiction book she wrote great, or even the majority? I'm like, I like the books. I'm like, that's not the question. Like,
exactly. That's not the question.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I guess the short answer to your question is no. The long answer is I've enjoyed the books. That so many of her books have great parts in them that I'm like, those great parts though really made this work for me. So I liked a lot of the books, but is she a great fiction writer? Probably not.
I mean, I would say no, but it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't. It's besides the question. I mean, I guess that is the question, but you don't have to be a great writer. It speaks to me. I knew exactly the first time I got into one of her books, I'm like, oh, this is different, and it was made for somebody like me. That's who it was made for. Even though there's a lot of crossover, there are many people who aren't like me who like her stuff, right? I don't always know why they do. I have a theory about that, and maybe we can get to that at some point here. But I needed to hear what she wanted to say, and I think that's good enough.
Yeah,
It's almost for me. So I have picks. Like you said, I wouldn't suggest, if somebody would have asked me about a book, but I wouldn't have a lot of suggestions because for me, I don't want to read a lot of books other than her types of books, even on fiction. Now I do like what is Paulo Coelho? What is his name? Paulo Coelho? Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Paulo Coelho, Alchemist, the rest of that.
Yeah, Alchemist. So I do know I like that, and like I said, I'm a movie person more or less. But no, I don't think she's a great writer. Yes, I do think she wrote great things, but she didn't compromise. That's one. And so
I don't fiction writer because I don't think she enjoys getting wrapped up in storytelling alone. And so I'm like, the storytelling could use some, there could be other ways to tell this story in a more cohesive way that was just enjoyable and entertaining. If that was her goal, she could have done that differently. But that is not her goal. And so I can appreciate what she was doing for what she wanted, in the sense that she had some clear points she wanted to get across, and she was uncompromising in how she was getting it across.
I don't have a point of reference so much to even, I guess the only thing that I can say is there are moments in the book where I'm just thinking, okay, I get it. Okay, I get it. But when you talk about the speeches, okay, I don't even care. I listened to the speech for like 4 hours. It doesn't even matter. The speeches are the best parts of the book. The speeches, to me, are the best parts of the book. And the thing, especially with Atlas, like I said before, it's the integrity. Like one thing I don't like about people is people who have no backbone, people who have no integrity. I get it at times. I meet a lot of people where they're just, I guess, afraid of the world and afraid of the backlash, afraid of other people's opinions. I'm not saying that I hate you because of it. I'm just saying that I just can't relate. I don't relate to that in any way. That part, and like you said, breaking things down, it's just unapologetic. It was what she wanted it to be. It had to be, because how could you even write something if it wasn't? How could you write something like that if it wasn't what you wanted it to be?
Exactly.
That wasn't a game plan to be. Like, it's not like, hey, this is what people like.
Right? When we fall into all the cool kids are doing it, so this is where we are now. Like, nope.
So, but no, I would not ever tell I would say you could read it, but I wouldn't. If somebody's like, hey, I just want a nice read, something chill, I can just, depending on the type of person that I'm thinking about, I'm thinking like, well, you can take it and you figure it out. You tell me what happened, because I don't know.
Different approach.
Yeah, the whole, like I said, I don't have a bunch of points of reference, but I will say, and this is kind of shifting gears a little bit, my theory about even objectivism as a whole, or her brand of philosophy, because I think I encounter a lot of people who may have been an objectivist at a certain time or an individualist at a certain time, but they kind of like, now they do something else. Like, I don't know. You tell me, do you meet a lot of these people and they're just fishing? Like, one day they're Buddhist, next time they're individualists, then they're in Antifa, and then they're Christians. And it's like, and every time they find something, it's always like, yeah, I did that, and I figured out that there was something wrong with that, and now I'm doing this, and now this is the answer. And for me, I'm just thinking, no, you just are one of these people who just go by whim alone and just bounce around to a whole bunch of different things and just looking for answers, but you don't really care about ideas. That's why you just bouncing from thing to thing to thing. But I don't know, do you encounter a lot of people like that?
There are not a lot of people who will own up to that. There are some people who will stumble into that, and like that'll be part of their story. So yeah, there are certainly lots of people who are willing to explore but not willing to commit. And the reason they change one thing to another isn't always clear, or sometimes even real. Sometimes it's just sometimes there's a lot of worship, and they just kind of like flip flop, and they keep doing things that they have no real evidence for as far as this being actually good, objectively good. There's just like, this worked for me until it didn't, and then when it didn't work, I didn't problem solve, I didn't troubleshoot, I didn't explore any further. I was like, oh, that's uncomfortable, I'm gonna do something else. And over here, this thing is more comfortable, and this is the answer. And if you don't believe this, you're wrong. I'm like, you don't have evidence either. What do you mean? So yeah, there's certainly people who I've met like that who are hard to pin down and hard to have real conversations with, because they don't care enough about the ideas to understand why they happen. They're not looking to analyze things well enough to gain that self-awareness to figure out why they believe what they believe.
Yeah, it reminds me of the people who just read a bunch of books and think that they are super intelligent, or I guess you could call it knowledgeable, but they're like, but did you read this philosophy? And what about this philosophy? And what about that philosophy? Sounds like you're kind of confused. That's the way that it comes off to me. And I'm not saying that reading everything is bad. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't read all of the books. And if you're reading everything, and every time you read something new, it changes your mind completely, to me, that's a problem, And maybe a younger person, maybe not, older person, like how are you integrating your knowledge? How does this new thing intersect, integrate with what you already know? If it changes everything completely every time, or if you can't come up with any decisions anytime, then that's not the type of person that I am, and that's not the type of person to typically get along with. Well, not even say get along with, it's just that I don't take them seriously intellectually.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to read a lot of things and have a great idea of what a lot of things are. I think that's a great portion to be educated. But I think if you don't take those ideas and apply them, you don't have full understanding. Without that understanding, it makes it really challenging to treat what you're saying as more than just intellectual curiosity. It's like, I read this thing, and if you have questions about this book or about this topic, I can be Wikipedia for you and tell you what I've heard other people say about this topic. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But if I need to like do this thing, if I need to effectively make this make sense, what context do you have? Like, I don't have any context. I don't know why they said this. I don't know where it came from. This happens in the book. And I can quote it to you frequently. I'm like, oh, well, I don't want that. Nope. This is not the game I'm playing. There are some people who want to see how many things you can remember.
Right.
I'm not here to test that. That's not what I'm doing. I don't care how much you remember. You may know more than me, but that's not helping solve my problem, which is very specific to my situation.
Yeah.
Can you help me with this? Or is that not what we're doing? Like, I can quote this to you, but what about like my problem though? Is it getting better or worse after this interaction? It's like, oh, you still want to have this problem. I'm not here for that. I'm like, okay, fair. Great. We can go our separate ways. We reached the end of this part of the conversation.
I think it's happened in this group before, but definitely happened in some groups that I've been a part of, locally in DC. You get around people who love to have philosophical conversations. And it's like, oh, it could be this, oh, it could be that, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the conversation, nothing was gained. No idea was, accepted and held deeply. It's like, no, we just like to swim in the ideas and get out and, and just, dry off and then go home. If that's your thing, then that's fine, But for me, like when I'm talking about ideas and when I'm trying to dissect them and define them and all of these things, it's like you said, for a purpose. It's not just to be, it's not fun just to talk about ideas aimlessly to me.
Exactly.
I don't get this at all. But I think that's the majority. When I'm talking about ideas, that typically, I feel like that's the majority. If I do like an anecdotal recollection, statistical recollection in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, like you said, there's a lot of people who like to, I think a lot of people get off on, oh, I read this, and do you know about Baron San Sebastian in such in 1960? Like you said, what does this have to do with the price of tea in China? Like, and I'm not saying that having these, if you bring up this facts, make it have some relevance.
Thank you. Apply this to what we're doing. Because if you can't use it, how am I going to use it? Come on now.
So, but that's my thing on that. My other theory was on objectivism in Rand. Was I think there's, and I didn't put this in the book, but it was Brandon wrote this essay called Counterfeit Individualism. And if you read it, and I'm gonna actually probably come out with this at one point in time. If you read it, it's like reading it's like introverted irrationality or introverted feeling first as a faulty fake individualism. And that's once again, this is a type group, so this is based around Jungian psychology. I understand that I'm using a system to dissect things. If I came across a better system, I would like to use it, but I don't tend to find a better system. I know people talk about the Big Five, but I don't know how to use that, man.
Well, I think the Big Five is limited. It's highly descriptive, and that's fine, but it's not super helpful for me in the sense of all 5 of the Big Five characteristics are not things I care about. And so I'm like, well, I have this, I have high neuroticism, or I'm really agreeable, or, I've got extroversion. Like, dude, I don't care.
Right.
How good are you at processing things mentally? Where do you fall in this? I don't know where to place you in this team. Like, I don't, this ocean stuff is super challenging to find a use case. Like it's cool that people have it, but I'm just like, of the ways we categorize people, how does this help me specifically make my team work more effectively, or know who to contact to build my tribe, or make things work at home? Like, I've not seen a lot of utility. That's just because I don't know a lot about it. But also, the people who talk about it don't mention a lot of, this is how you can build this up in this way to make sure things work out more effectively at home. I'm like, anyway, it was developed by people who had different goals than I have. And so it's harder for me to get into.
Yeah, I mean, even if I do the quick comparison of Big Five, you say Ocean, but yeah, Ocean, it is openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, adaptability. Is that it? Or is it agreeableness, and neuroticism?
Yeah.
So if I just take one of those, like if I take extroversion, me coming from a Jungian world, it's like, and you say the big five is scientifically accepted by professionals, blah, blah, blah. Okay, someone is extroverted. In my mind, I'm thinking, in what way? You know,
Right.
in what way? Because your extroversion doesn't help me. Even the case that I try to make in the book about the split between rational extroversion and, you know, rational introversion, it gives me a context. It helps me understand, okay, thinking, judgment process, epistemology, outside, inside. It's a matrix where he's just giving me with extroversion is a line. It's, hey, you sit here. What does that mean? How can I use this? You know, and so that goes to my point about, for me, I think there are a lot of individualists, and I wouldn't say individualists, people, I think Ayn Rand objectivist work plays towards introverts. That's what I think, right? I think it plays towards rational people, and I think it plays towards introverts. And then if I go to another book, if I go to Philosophy Who Needs It, and I look at a chapter, it was something I talked about in the book. What is that? Selfishness without a self, right? That's what I think about when I think about introverted, introverted, irrational. I don't, it's not a rash. It's, you could say it's whim worship. I don't necessarily want to classify it as whim worship, but if I use these two frameworks, if I use Jung and say, like, these are irrational types, they are introverted, they are, you know, they go inward. That's their natural tendency to go inward, but they're not going inward on a rational function, like either feeling or thinking. They're going inward from an irrational standpoint. So to me, this is where you can find the irrational. Like, I wouldn't even call it Attila, because Attila was an extrovert and for the new intellectual, but more of the mystic, like my world, my created. Well, I'm not mystic. What is Attila and the witch doctor? That's what I'm thinking about. My world, my creation, you know, fires from above, you know, all of these inner visions of things, all of that type of stuff. Right. And it's a framework that I try to just work around. I don't know if anybody ever see this, check out the book, because it's laid out I think it's laid out better than the way that I'm talking about it right now. But I think that plays to a lot of people, and they think, oh, wow, here's something that lets me be an individual. But they're not thoughtful, rational individuals. They're like, hey, we get to take people's stuff individual. This is the libertarian individual. This is the anarchist individual, you know, like not building a full framework. That's on one side. But then to me, you got the other side, where it's the INFP or the ISFP individual, where I've known INFPs and ISFPs, and they seem very individual to me, you know.
Right.
But I wouldn't call them the most completely rational of people. You know,
nicest way to put it. Yeah. I think they are very aware of their perspective.
Yes. Yeah. And it sets them apart. So like I said, that's why I love this framework. It helps. It gives me an understanding. You could say if you had evidence to show me that it was wrong, then I would listen to you. But I'll say that I've used it and it's helped me communicate with people. And I wouldn't say categorize people, because I don't really care to categorize them. I'm categorizing the behavior, not the person, you know? And when I see a certain type of behavior, it's helpful to say, oh, that type of behavior likely leads me to here. And then I'll just have some way to think about what I'm, you know, just that behavior. It's not the person. It's that typical behavior. That's all I'm thinking of. Let me not call it even behavior. That perspective, that cognitive instinct. I guess it does have to end in, but it's a behavior. It's really the way you think. It's not necessarily a specific behavior. I don't want people to think like
it's not an action alone. It is an action backed by a certain premise that happens to be pretty consistent. And like, okay, this is your perspective. It shows your values. Since you care about these things, you tend to interpret things this way. And that makes you think, I need to do things this way, even though evidence shows it's different. But you're not paying attention to the outside evidence. You've got that inside evidence you're looking at.
Exactly.
Evidence. Are very loosely now.
But here's the thing. So let me flip it on the INTP. It's the same thing. You can get caught up in your own INTP world. It's no different. You can use your type as a strength, or you could fall victim to your type as well. You know,
everything it's all trade-offs, and it certainly has a weakness. So we can certainly use analysis and point it instead of at the outside the world. We can go down a rabbit hole with a bunch of premises and suppositions that have no basis in reality. I broke a completely irrational idea all the way down. It's like, oh, you lived in a whole fantasy world, and now you understand the fantasy world better. Yeah. All the fantasy go here. Like, none of that is real. Now, more days. We're doing stuff that is not helpful to anyone.
People love to do that, though.
That's a lot.
This is, once again, another bouncing ball, take a turn here. This is why I do that. This is me. And that's why I like being in this group, because most people in here, they can follow the bouncing ball.
There you go.
But this is why, it's not a beef, but my disagreement with religion as such in a lot of ways, right? Because when you say, hey, we have these problems in society, we need to fix them. And then you just look up and you don't look out into the world to fix the problems. You say, God has to fix it, or this mysterious thing has to come and fix it. I'm like, but no, look here. The problem is here. We need to see here and figure it out here. And they're like, no, we're looking up. We're looking out. We're looking all in these other places. And I'm thinking, how can you fix the problem if you're not even paying attention to So it makes me, it doesn't frustrate me, because I don't allow people to frustrate me, because for me, I've got enough evidence. I feel like I can figure out, okay, you're a person who's not going to pay attention to evidence. Only thing you can do is some type of mystical, something else is going to fix it that I can't perceive. Got it. I'm just move on, you know.
All right, let's move on. We're done here. All right. We agree to disagree. I guess that's what we're doing now.
Good.
Oh man.
But I guess I would like to dig more, not necessarily into that idea, but the whole idea of people not being objective. Because people love to do this, oh man, I guess life is just crazy for me, or somebody was against me, or God didn't think it was my day, or the devil won today. All these other things outside, look at the objective evidence,
right,
and think about it and work it out. You know, and that's it. And I'm not saying, and when I say think about it, I don't mean you're going to win today. I mean, let's make some incremental progress and get a better idea, get a better hypothesis, get some more information, ask a better question, something of that nature, instead of, some mysterious thing, some person doesn't like me, this is bad luck. Oh, and one of the things that burned me up is this not new, but this person is a plant. It's like and the whole idea of the whole they thing kills me. Plants and theys is just like, oh no, you just don't want to take responsibility for your choices and your actions. So of course they put this person in place. They took your job. They were against you. They even if they were, it really doesn't matter. But
it doesn't change your responsibility. Like, you still have to deal with this. This is still your job to handle. No one else is going to be able to do it for you, or can live your life for you. So it doesn't change this fact. It's helpful to be aware of obstacles. And yes, obstacles do exist. And sometimes people are part of those obstacles. They can add to your problem. But that doesn't change what you need to do. You still need to solve your problem.
Right. And people need help at times. And I get that. But I don't, this one statement to me is like a whole strategy. People don't owe you help. It's not their job. You shouldn't go out into the world and say, oh, you got to do this for that person. That person is struggling. Need does not exist outside of a person. I think I made a great case for this in the book. It's like, no need does not exist externally. All need is created by a subject.
Yes.
And so
the way it exists. But it also doesn't, the right way to respond to that is not slavery. Like, it's frustrating to no end when people use need as a justification for resources or action or any of those things. And it's unhelpful. It's unnecessary. Yeah, there's There's no justification to that going that direction.
I think that there's an intersection between like need, collectivism, and extroversion. That's why I love those ideas. I love talking about those ideas. One thing that kind of brings it full circle for me. Caught a couple of videos recently, and a lot of times you find people, black people, saying do it for the culture. Right. And I just this thing boggles my mind in a sense. And it's not that I don't have the same desire to see people be successful, but I don't know that that's what that means. I
don't think people have the same definition of what that means. It's frustrating to watch people make the same mistakes over and over again. Exactly. I think that part is completely unnecessary. And I really wish there would be some more clarity. Like, I don't mind doing things for the culture, but define which culture, who are the people a part of this culture? What are our cultural values that we're trying to achieve? Like, there are some things we do hold in common, right? We did say we are one culture. All right, what is that culture? What is this culture about? How are we going to get there? If we can be a little clearer in some of that, then maybe we can stop making the same overgeneralizations that just say we're doing it for the culture, therefore we're all on the same page, therefore we're all going to be willing to sacrifice for it. I'm like, I don't know if any of those premises are true. We should really, it's going to be really important that we all be on the same page about this. Yeah. We're all going to keep working toward different things, and we're not going to get, quote unquote, what it is that we say we want.
But that is the leader's fault. All right. This is leader's fault. Leader's fault. However you say it. And like you said, it's disingenuous because when I encounter this thing, it's like nobody addresses anything. I almost don't want to talk about it because I don't feel like it's worthy of talking about it.
Right. But there is a principle here. I think the idea of integrity is important, and the idea of consistency in a way that is taking the individual into account. Like, there are ways people are trying to communicate real needs, real ways that we can understand and then extract the principle of, like, this is what human beings need to survive. It's only done whenever we take the responsibility of doing it. And if we can do that more effectively, then we could have a much better personal life, and then we can have the bandwidth to help the life around us be a little less terrible. And so I think there are some things that we can say that are beneficial.
The struggle that I have, like, I can't really speak to anything limited as race, right? I just can't. Because I don't know, it bothers, because if you solve people issues, then you by nature are solving race issues. You're just solving people issues, Right. It's just intrinsically built in. But the problem, and I know we talked about this a little bit last time, so I don't want to harp on it too much, but there are no standards. There are no standards, and therefore a lot of times what I'll see is people say stuff like, do it for the culture, but you don't address anything in the culture. You just let it just be. You don't, I don't know, man. I remember, so I used to be more active online and Facebook and stuff like that, because I just thought it was people being able to talk and have all types of conversations, whatever. And so I stumbled into this one chat. I don't even know how I got in here. Some of the people I don't need on my Facebook, I don't even know I don't know who they are, and I should probably, but whatever. So somehow we got into this talk about this woman. She was having issues, and she had like 4 kids by 3 different parents, so or 4. I don't really know. It was something along those lines. And I don't know if she was having some trouble. Somebody was saying something about it. And I wasn't really trying to even critique. I'm just like, I'm pretty much saying this is not a good situation you've gotten yourself into. Right. And then somebody, right, you can't judge this person, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I'm not really judging her. I'm just stating obvious facts. Right. And so my whole point is that how can you do it for the quote unquote culture if you're not addressing objective reality, you're not addressing truth, you're not addressing any of these things. I don't want to hear from you.
Yeah, there can't be specifics, and you can't show actual ways where you're making progress with the culture or some specific cultural value. If you can't even define it, then I don't even know if we're having the same conversation. You're like, anyway, but that bothers me. That's fixable. If you can't fix it, then I don't need to be open to watching you fail again. Like I'm open to having a discussion about how to do things well. But if you're already decided that you have all the answers, then it's just not a discussion, and we don't have to have this back and forth of, oh, you're judging this person, oh, you don't like this person, oh, you don't agree with me, so you're not part of the culture, or you're just whatever. I'm like, hey, I'm not here to condemn people. I'm not here to make value judgments. I'm not here to get everyone and poll the audience to make sure we're all like, agreeing with me. I don't, that's not my plan at all. There's an objective issue that we can either solve or not solve. Let's just choose to do that or not. We don't have to argue. I don't care what you think. It doesn't solve the problem unless it's about the problem. We can talk about that.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if it gets too rough, I'll just turn up the apathy button.
Right.
It's not even apathy. It's just like, I'll just disconnect because I only come to offer help. I don't, like you said, I don't come here to condemn. I mean, I don't come here to criticize people for the sake of criticizing people. But I also want to say that one of the reasons I don't like talking about quote unquote black issues is because it isolates issues as such to a place where I don't think it belongs. Like, these issues are issues. And so therefore I don't need to call them black issues. I could just address these issues.
Exactly. Yes. That's the appropriate response. Let's keep these in the right realm of things and be clear. These are people issues. This is a person who has a significant issue that we want to address. Let's actively focus in on what caused the issue. Yeah. Well, while certain things can tend to run in a certain race or class of people, that's not the starting point. It's not the cause. And so if it's not the cause, we don't need to spend the entire time just pointing at this like, oh, this only happened because these people don't like us. These people may not like us, but that doesn't change our choices. Our choices still are in the same wheelhouse we had before. Which of these choices are helpful or not? Yeah. Because I can't change other people. So looking at that bigger portion is not helpful.
Like once again, like we say, your choices are everything. That is your character. That is who you are. That's everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I guess this reminds me of another talk I came across. I think this was at the Breakfast Club. It was something like this and something like that. God was just saying, like you kind of were just talking about, like, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. And this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. For me, if I hear this coming from women and children, then I'm fine with it. This happened to me, that happened to me, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not really interested in hearing from men talking about what happened to them. Even if it did, I really don't care. I don't really want to, I want to hear what you did about it.
I've gone through this and this is how I solved it. I'm like, okay, cool, nice. I'll listen to that.
I mean, but that's a solution. That's how I solved it. That's a solution. But I guess, let me give a full context. These conversations are not about what happened to you. It's using the historical view, the look back view to I don't even know. Are they trying to do something better in the future? They're talking about the future, but they're not talking about using the judgment for the future. They're just saying, hey, look at these things. I'm not going to think about some future's going to happen, and because we thought about these things, that somehow this is going to relate to. I don't really understand, So once again, this is not really a race thing for me. This is, I don't even know it's not even a man thing for me. This is what I try to do, is I try to establish, your judgment is what you're supposed to be exercised. You are supposed to make decisions. And
thank you.
Yes, things happen to you. I guess what it is that maybe I'm just not a very sympathetic person. That's not even true, because I understand. I understand, but at the same time, looking backwards has never. Hold on, let me be real clear about this, because I don't want to mess this part up. You can look backwards and you can learn, but when you never turn forward to try to make a better situation, how do you even the playing field? How do you make something that you can't change better if you're not making something that you can change better? If you're not making your future better, how can you feel better about the past? I can't keep, spilled milk. Oh man, look at that milk. You bumped into me and I spilled that milk. You shouldn't have bumped into me. And you wanted to bump into me. That's a lot of energy, man. I need to think about, how am I going to do something in the future? Okay, when you walk, you walk that way and I walk this way, and then therefore we won't bump into each other in the future. Hey, that's making my life better in the future. And
right.
I'm not trying to say you shouldn't have emotions or feel emotions or deal with them. I just think that sometimes when I'm talking to people, all they're doing is dealing with emotions. Like all I hear about is heal, heal, heal. I'm broken, I'm healed, heal, broken. But
they talk about emotions, but they ain't always talking about addressing them. They ain't talking about fixing them. They ain't talking about doing things with them. I always find that very frustrating and sad because it's fixable. Like we don't have to have this level of confusion or fighting each time. Like there are some things that do work. We could try any of those. That does seem like a reasonable portion. Like it's not that no one knows how to process emotions is my point. People bring up emotions, they rehash them, but they don't effectively find ways to understand the source of those things, change their irrational beliefs to rational beliefs, and then use those rational beliefs as a springboard to make new choices, new decisions. And when I hear that and see that process like being worked out over and over again, it's frustrating to the point of this is fixable. Somebody does know how to do this. Why did you not consult that somebody and or either get help early or communicate what the help you needed was? And because there is an answer, it makes me concerned that either people don't know or that they're doing this genuinely.
So I agree with you. So when I look at psychology, sometimes I see good things come out of psychology, out of the psychological world, those ideas. But I then wonder, sometimes they don't translate. And what I mean by that is like, okay, I think I'm gonna have to read a specific point because I think I said this and I need to kind of like refer to it because it's about, let me just get to this piece because I don't even know. Let me see how many times. Okay, that's not it. Okay, so I'm gonna read a small piece real quick. And so like I quoted Rand real quick. After that, I'm saying that I think this is the part. So the sentiment that individual self-esteem is foundational to valuing others has gained wide acceptance beyond the confines of Randian philosophy. However, what often is less acknowledged in mainstream discourse is the depth of thought preceding this recognition. Valuing oneself is not merely an act of affirmation, but the result of a rigorous, rational pursuit of personal values. This journey, essential for genuine self-esteem, involves not only recognizing but overcoming the external pressures that sway one's self-perception. The popular understanding emphasizes the outcome, self-esteem's role in fostering healthy interpersonal relationships, without fully engaging with the underlying philosophical challenge, the need for intellectual independence and a personal value system developed through deliberate self-examination. I'm just finishing the rest of the part. In contrast, I'm not even getting to that part, but that's kind of what I'm trying to say, right? It's just that popular people talk about self-esteem, but what's the definition of self-esteem to them? What's the definition of self to them? More than esteem, in my opinion, because
right.
If you don't really address that, you can't use these concepts in a meaningful way that's going to solve your problem. That's what I mean. You're not going to be able to use these psychological tools in a meaningful way if you're saying, "Oh, I need self-esteem," but really your self-esteem is identification with a racial group, or with a sexual preference, or I don't know, anything. And people would tell you, you can say it even religion, people would say that's what all Christianity is about, in the sense that you're identifying as a child or servant of God or something like that. But so that's the whole point I'm trying to make, is that yes, they have good ideas, but if you need to actually dig a little deeper to use them in a meaningful way.
Yeah. Use of ideas is the key part. And it's terrible when people stop short of putting things in context. It's great when people are like, "Oh, I can associate with this group. I can associate my identity with something outside of me, either my parents or my country or my school or, my achievements." I'm like, okay, that's cool and all. But while that's the soup you swim in, like, who's doing the swimming? Like, what is going on? You don't have these things. Like, it's really important to know what your actual thoughts and your beliefs and your values and your character is. Like, I need to know who I'm talking to right now. It's cool you're associated with other things, but the person I'm talking to is this person is the thing that matters most. Like, this is the foundation that I need to either build on and build with or get away from. I don't know what you're trying to do here. So please help me have some clarity.
Yeah. So yes, that part is what makes me, I wouldn't say question psychology. It just makes me disappointed. I'm just disappointed in these ideas, and people will say like, oh, Rand or Young has been discredited. With what? Like, what are you hating us? With
how?
With what?
You mean discredit?
We'd like to use. And
you said A is A. What part of that seems like you can discredit it? I don't think we must be thinking of different things. What thing do you think she said that has been discredited? You tell me.
Oh, I don't even think that. I think what it is that it's trying to use somebody's life to characterize their ideas.
Yes. They're like, I don't like what she did. I don't like how she said this. She's a bad person. And therefore, this idea holds no weight. Like, I don't think that's how that works. I hear you. You don't like it.
We have a list of fallacies that say that's not how that works. Like, I love fallacies, even though you can use them in negative ways too, but people use the fallacies. Yeah. I think I used to love them more, but then I figured out that, wow, people just don't care about just being, it's not even about being wrong. It's about having bad methods. That's pretty much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Good point.
I mean, because that's all, look, rationality it's really only a method. That's all it is. And it's nothing about being rational guarantees that you're going to be right. Nothing about being irrational guarantees that you're going to be wrong. I just have I have a reason to believe. Reason is reason to believe. You know what I mean? Irrationality is, hey, I can wing it. It's following the bouncing ball. I can't. It's like little sayings that people say that irritate me, but I know that they don't always. I know they don't always mean it. Like, who could know? You know, how could?
Right. Like, don't say that. You are making this harder for yourself when you say that. Every time you mention something like that, yes, you're right. Like, it's phrases like that cause me that hurts me inside, because like, your main job is to know. Please don't start off a conversation with, how could I do my job? I'm like, by trying and learning how to do your job. It is your responsibility to tell me how well you are doing your job. It's not a responsibility to show up like, well, this job can't even be done. I mean, who knows if it can be done? You hopefully, because it is your job to live your life this way, you're going to need to make a decision.
I mean, if you really look at the whole thing, like really just logically, Josh, I know a lot of people say, you can't know this. Can't know is a useless thing, right?
Yes. But it's also,
let me finish this real quick. My best idea is the best thing that you can have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how poorly your best idea is. The best idea is the only thing that you really have. You know, so it's, I don't know and I can't know. You are useless. You could come up with, you could just take it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just, okay, I can judge this kind of like this and like that. That's the best way. You go ahead, man. I'm just trying to make the point that there's no situation where I don't know and I can't know is relevant to anyone's life, really. It just isn't.
There's none. And I just think it's frustrating and it's unfortunate, but it's not. It's a logical fallacy. Like we were just mentioning, when someone turns around and says to you, oh, whatever's happening here, and you just said this, you can't know that. I'm like, but see, I said this because it's what I thought, even if it's not an absolute truth, which I didn't claim, but even if I did, you're claiming absolute knowledge that I can't know. Like you just said, the thing I said isn't possible, but now you're doing it. Like the hypocrisy is so evident at that point. I can now play this game of back and forth. Oh, you can't know. No, you can't know. No, you see, we're not getting anywhere because we're both assuming absolute statements, and it's not, neither one can be validated with reason. Like you said, reason is evidence for belief. both have no foundation here. I said this is what I believe, and then you were like, it's impossible to know. I'm like, that is a claim. You made a claim. You think you're making a statement, but you're actually saying that. So anyway, I think it's helpful to point out where people's reasoning is unhelpful in the sense of like it leads them off the track. So like this is causing you not to be able to make any progress in this solution-oriented portion. If we wanted to solve this issue, then it can't be impossible. It can only be possible to this area, to this extent.
I mean, because a more appropriate question would be, well, how do you come to that conclusion?
There you go. Yep.
And then, but then what would you be evaluating? You would be evaluating their method. That's what.
There you go.
And that's what it's about. And so I know talk about writing more. These ideas for me, I would love to write more about them, because if what we're talking about is method, if we stop giving children methods to think, to learn, what are we doing? Like,
right. What do you expect them to do now?
I mean, I guess maybe we're telling them that it's an app that'll do, I don't know, maybe it's an app that'll do life for you. There's an app that'll live your life for you or something. I don't really understand that, but if
it's a mistake. It's a oversimplification of the idea of freedom. And people have said that, like culture has said, that the traditions of the past were just too restrictive. And therefore, if we just allow people to choose, that's what real freedom is. And freedom is the highest virtue. And people have misunderstood freedom to that level. I guess that's where we are. People have taken the idea that I don't want to force my opinion on somebody else. I don't want to treat them as if they're not an individual, and therefore I'm not going to taint their opinions with anything that I know. And that is the definition of neglect. And that's just been accepted now.
Yeah, for kids. But I will say, what you just explained to me is right. I should be able to make choices. I should be able to have freedom. I don't know. It was like 3 things that you said. Like, I didn't see anything wrong with what you said. But this is why you need a principle. Because, and I'm not saying you know it, I'm just saying for people. Because really it's about initiating force against each other. Because that's the only thing that's really relevant. I don't know if I allow you to make choices and they don't have negative consequences or initiate force against anybody. There's no, what's the wrong there? I don't know. If you want to do things with your body that I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy, and I wouldn't do that myself, and I think that might kill him at some point in time. But he's not imposing it. He's not, initiating force against anybody else. What's the wrong there?
I mean, there's the moral wrong, but there's not a violation of your rights, which I think is helpful. We definitely want to make sure that we have a clarity on the amount of respect we should have for one another that's effective for running a society. I think there's something to be said for being able to point out that your freedom with yourself and your choices and your stuff can go this far. It can go as far as, the bridge of my nose begins. And so it's just like, you need to make sure that you're going to swing your arm, stops before my nose. If you're going to mess up your stuff, it stops so it doesn't mess up my stuff. You have to have these boundaries that respect our individuality, our individual property, and that's a helpful criteria. But morally, there are some things that lead to death. And so we can point at it like, hey, that's a terrible plan. You can keep jumping off this building without a parachute, but it's probably going to be a one and done situation. It's a bad choice. You shouldn't do this. It's my freedom. Okay. But your freedom is harming you. So just FYI, last people who did this didn't make it back, but go for it. You do.
So it's interesting because I don't have those thoughts a lot. I don't think about
nice.
If I were to split morality and ethics into 2 sides of the same coin, I try to make that case. I'm not going to make it right now, but I only care about what issues you can present me or other people can present. I'll take care of my own issues myself. The internal things, the things where if I'm not bothering you, don't bother me, and that's how, yeah. And I think the idea of morality could also cause people to cross the line. Like it's really the FE. There was a dude in the group a while back. You know what I'm talking about, who I'm talking about, where he would insert himself in people's lives like, oh, I was just trying to help this person. His specific case was she was getting ready to get a bad grade or something like that, and he saw the grade, or he knew she was going to get a bad grade, and he kept telling her what she needed to do to get a better grade, and she was like, leave me alone. And to me, and this is a FE person, this is a, you know, INFJ, and we have INTJs and INFJs in here argue, well, they're going back and forth like, see, this is why you need to stop poking around in people's lives. If that's my choice, that's my choice, and let me do what I need to do. And sometimes that FE is very dangerous because you really start poking into people's lives where you really don't belong there, you know? And so that's kind of like how I think about, and I understand that, okay, it's because you care about the person, or it's because maybe you want to be perceived as caring about the person. I don't know which one it is, but they don't need you to come into their house. Hey, let me enter into your house and fix everything for you. You should put the drapes like this. You should do this. No, get out.
Yep. This advice is harassment.
People like that. People like to do that.
People live that way. They talk that way. They have that opinion, but it is helpful. People they're doing it to will remind them eventually with boundaries, you know. And it's just when you see people go down this path, you know it's preventable. But most people don't. Well, sometimes people do not listen. And when that happens, there's only so much you can do to help them realize, hey, what you're doing it's costing you a lot for literally no benefit. Please stop doing this. This person you are talking to does not want to be talked to. Let them learn their own lesson their way. I get it. What they're doing, you wouldn't do it that way. And that's okay. No one forcing you to do it that way.
But that's a gateway to intrusion. It's not even a gateway. It's wrong. I think it's wrong because the reason why I say that is that that's really, I'm going to insert myself in this person's life for their own good. And that's no different than collectivism. That's no different than the group gets to tell this person with, or I want to say dictatorship, but whatever you want to say. It's just a violation in a sense.
It is. It's a violation of their individual autonomy, and therefore you can whenever you try to make other people's choices for them, you are clearly interfering in a way that is wrong, especially when it comes to it. And this is specifically in the case of like another adult. When you as an adult go to another adult to try to make their decisions for them, their life for them, or in any way, shape, or in most way, shape, or form, it is terrible. Like that is not how this goes. Now, there are lots of ways to interact with people. You can certainly communicate with them, use your words, warn people if they're about to step off a curb or not paying attention. You warn people when they're making bad choices, and they have the option then to listen to you or not. That's right. Different.
Yeah, but we don't teach people how to use their judgment, so options are almost imperceptible. People don't perceive options. They just perceive grievances and injustice. But it's, one show, like, you ever watched The Wire before?
Yeah.
So first episode, first scene of The Wire, episode 1, scene 1. And I think it captures the whole idea perfectly. So McNulty is police. I don't know if he's a detective at this point, whatever. And somebody got shot, Baltimore City. And he goes talk to the kid. And the kid is more or less like, man, I don't know why they shot blah, blah, blah. I don't remember the guy's name. He's like, man, he do the same thing every time. And he's like, what? And he was saying that everybody knows, I don't know, call him Spit, just whatever. Everybody knows is going, during the dice game, he going to grab the money and run. He do it every time. And he hung, right? And somebody shot him this time. And he was like, and McNulty was like, so you mean he grabs the money and he runs every time? He's like, yeah, that's just what he does. And he's like, so McNulty's like, and y'all still keep letting him play in the game? And he's going to do that? He was like, man, this is America, or whatever he said. It's a free country, man. You got to let him play.
Oh, no.
So to me, that scene just communicates the whole idea of like, nah, man, it's not, we don't have reasons. It's just, you got to do these things. You got to let them play.
Everybody does it. You got to do it. It'd be wrong not to do it. Wow. Like, this is where we are. Okay.
But that's, I wouldn't even go and make this term, but that's what a rule following mind does. Like there are people who aren't making their own experiences. They're just living on it, the experience that they've seen other people have. So when they see a person do something, they say, oh, I want that thing. I want what they're doing. I want their life. I want what they're wearing. I want what they're, and those things. And so that to me is the rule following mind. Like, well, what do you want to be? I don't know. Like some people don't have interests. They don't have personal goals. They just go to work because, hey, I gotta go to work. Some people really believe you're forcing me to work. I gotta go to work to get this food, and you're forcing me to do these things. I've heard people make these arguments in debates in college,
Right. That's insane. It's insane that this is where we are, this level of confusion. Like, well, these people did all these things and they're just, a slaver, and I'm a wage slave, and there's just no other options in life. I'm like, wow. Like you skipped over all the information, jumped right to the most ridiculous possibility. There's actually, these words that we say have meaning. There's definitions for things, and we know that that you've skipped over the process of choice, and you're ignoring it to the point where you now think that you are determined to live this way, that you are now fatalistically, put in this predicament, that no one can escape. It's just impossible. It's just the way things are. Just the way of the world.
Right. And instead of finding meaning and finding personal enjoyment, long-term meaning or long-term values, it becomes sex, drugs, alcohol, opulence. Is that what I'm looking for? Like just 1.5.
Hedonism, man.
It's like people, it's crazy to me that people want jewelry, fake jewelry that looks like $1 million jewelry. Like I can't grasp that idea,
I mean, if you're gonna play dress up, you're gonna do it right.
I mean, so one of the things that I think coming up, one of the things that stick out to me, and I think I see this across almost all businesses or all brands, many brands have this multiple price point model now. So I think when I was younger, like a Benz was a Benz. It meant something. There were these kinds of Benz, and then you had this kind of Benz and that kind of Benz, but it still was a Benz like thing. There wasn't a 1 Series BMW. There wasn't a 2 Series BMW. There wasn't the mini Benz so much. It was like, no, you wanted a Benz, you got a Benz. You wanted the Beamer, you got a Beamer. And if you couldn't get those things, then you would just, live according to your means or whatever, buy according to your means. But now it's like everybody has to have price options at every price point. Like I think this is an unpopular opinion too, but there's no prestige. And I'm not saying prestige is something that you have to have, but when people make a thing and this is their thing, that's if that's what's going to sell, that's what I want. If it costs more and it's better and this is what they specialize in, I want that thing. I want the thing that has more value. I don't know if I can say.
That's why it has the value, is because it's so scarce, because it has so much, because it's so hard to get. That is what makes it more valuable.
Yeah. So everything is, what makes anything different now? I guess there's no differences. I guess that's my point. What does little Scooby had to do with little Woody or little Sanchez or little Will or whatever? It's all the same. What's the point? What do I need this for?
Differentiation. We wanted everything to be equal, and now here we are. See, we're better now. Everybody's got what we said we wanted.
Man, it's to the point where it's almost so. I heard a kind of great argument. You're not really a sports guy, right? Or
not really.
Well, it was a football argument, and so this is basically saying that somebody was saying that football is changed, and you got to accept the new league. It's not going to be that great in the beginning. You just gotta, just accept it not being that great for now. And the counter argument was, hey man, you sold us the idea that football, every moment counted, every second counted, every time. And now you're telling us that we gotta wait for greatness, for great football, for good football. He was like, what is this? And I would agree. Like, I'm gonna take a step back. As a fan, if your team sucks, you should stop. That's my mentality. That's going to make them get better or go broke. And if if the company that you support stops making quality stuff, stop buying. And that to me is a rational response. So
yeah, either stop going or communicate your complete and utter lack of expectations being met. Like, all right, I came here for this. I ain't getting this. Either I'm going to stop supporting or I'm going to make fun of this or compete in a way that's going to be clear that you have consequences for your delivery. Either you deliver on the value you promised or, we're going to have a different conversation.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. You have anything else, man?
I had a thought. So I've been trying to figure out business for a long time now, just because I had no idea how the world works and how corporations form and all the rest of that. And
I'm listening to you. I'm bad.
And so, I heard this one guy talk about how the corporate world works differently than just focusing on operations. Like, there's a business level where you're making basic stuff, you're going to work, you're focusing on being excellent at your job, or you're becoming an expert at this expert level of just operations. But then there's another layer of and he's like, the corporate world works based off of dynamic relational. Somebody hired you because they like you. You were hired by a person with a certain faction at this company. And this faction hired you so that you would make him or her look good. Your whole purpose as being in this organization is to make the leader of whatever group you're part of, whoever hired you, look good. And if you do that, then as they, move up the organization, they can pull you with them. And that's how things work. The company shows you that the company's priorities are geared toward the people who fit the best with the company, make the CEO happy, basically. And they show that by rewarding the people in the C-suite and then upper management with these specific bonuses. If you came to work for money and the company's telling you to get money, you need to do the things that encourage promotion. They don't reward working hard. They don't reward working a lot. If you do 3 or 4 people's job, that doesn't matter. That's not why they hired you. They promised you that they were going to give you money for the work that you performed, not for the work you overperformed. And so if you're there for money, then your goal needs to be promotion. And the only way to get promotion is by working with your faction to, navigate up this organization. But also, the best way to get up to achieve promotion is to leave and go to another corporation, because they have a lot more money budgeted for external hires than they do for internal promotion. So you can't usually work your way up by just working really hard, because that's something you care about, but that's not something that the company's telling they care about. The people at the top don't spend all day doing 4 or 5 jobs. They spend one day doing their job really well when it comes to vision for the company. And that's a much different leverage point that I even ever even thought about. I'm like, I don't know anything about how corporate structure functions based on people. And I just realized there's so many ways that teamwork is rewarded at the company I'm at now. And I didn't pay attention to this. I'm like, I want more money. I just work harder. And I'm like, that works to an extent. But my bosses get paid more than me. That's not, if I want to go to work for money and get paid more from this job, that I need to develop the skills my bosses have so I can get their job. And so that just to me was an eye-opening point to look at, because it just that's not how I think about things. I just really thought about it more in the employee mindset. You work harder, you make more money, that's the goal. I'm like, I don't know if that's a good goal. Maybe that's a terrible goal.
Let me read something to you real quick. So much stuff comes out of what you said. Cause I can't see that world. I don't understand that. To me, that's just that's a parallel universe view of life.
It's certainly very alternative. Those are different values altogether. If it's how nice other people think I am or how beneficial I am to the group, then that is a weird way to even approach life. If the work I do is secondary, and the primary reason I'm here is just to make my group feel good about me and what I'm doing for the group, then I've never done my job. If that is what they say my job is, I'm like, I've never done that. Nope.
So I'm not even going to be able to remember this. It's 4 things that's popping out, but I'm gonna just start with this quote that from what you just said. So this is from Jung and Psychological Types, and they were saying that There's an American saying that runs, in America, two kinds of men make good, the man who can do and the man who can bluff, which means that pretense is sometimes just as successful as actual performance. An extrovert of this kind prefers to work by appearance. The introvert tries to do it by force and misuses his work to that end. So that's kind of exactly what you just explained.
Exactly right. Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's one thing. The other thing was that's a counter universe. Like, there's no way for me to be able to see that world, because I'm working for meaning, and you're not talking. So this is why business and companies need freedom, in my opinion, because there are different cultures based on leaders and leadership structures resulting probably from leaders. When all companies become the same thing, it presents a problem, because the other type of person that you just explained is going to be more successful in those types of companies, because there are a lot of people who share that view of life. Personally, I would want to work for someone who's looking for, wouldn't even call it hard work necessarily. Well, like where I am, the CFO, he uses this term. It's called impact is the currency of career progression. So you need to make impact, and impact is not solely working hard. Impact is felt, but sometimes you gotta actually put your hand up and be like, hey, you see this? This is impact right here. You see, and I think it might be just harder for some people to do that, because they don't like to sell themselves. And I don't necessarily think that you could call it selling, but if you make an impact.
So I think sales is very prominent, very prevalent, very helpful to think of sales as communication, and then recognize that when it comes to any negotiation, any kind of way to navigate conflict, like it's a form of persuasion that you're going to need all the time when you have to deal with people.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything wrong with sales. I'm not saying that, but you get these perspectives of the world. Like, just take it and just make it three. Everything is sales. Everything is hard work. Everything is both. And I'm just in the everything is both category,
right?
Because what you just explained to me was almost everything is sales. That's parallel with that explanation of things, like to look good. Maybe there's some people, I feel like Stephen Covey dealt with this to me, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when he talked about the gopher mentality for CEOs. And it's like, and he's saying, go for his money, go for this, go for that. Oh, do this and do that and do this and do that, where it's task oriented and like you said, meant to make somebody look good. But why would your boss looking good be in conflict with your goals in working? Like, if it's
right,
go ahead.
Sometimes the way the boss looks good can vary, and so there are bosses who will take credit for things they don't do in order to look good in the right people's eyes, so they can get promoted. And that is it's
a different issue, though. That's how
I hear you. I know.
Because if we're talking about how bosses, what's the word that we're talking about? Use it in whatever. It's your boss. He gets to do whatever the hell he wants. However, you did the work. It's your boss. You don't like it, go somewhere else and be the boss. It doesn't really matter.
The game. This boss gets to make the rules. Enjoy the game or leave.
Yeah.
It's true.
My mind turns towards the whole issue with standardizing businesses from a cultural standpoint. And let me kind of give some examples of what I mean with this. At some point, all big businesses or trendy businesses became the same to me. They all wanted to be Apple or something at some point.
Right.
And so there's these ideas, there's these classes, it's the push for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Like, people looking different, great, amazing, sure. But it's not like these companies don't really care about these things like people think that they care about them. These are things, a lot of times, even with the COVID stuff, we don't want to get sued. This is the reasons why we have these rules. So we are mitigating legal risk. That's
it.
What we're doing.
That's it.
Oh, and we can pretend like we like people, and we might like people, but business here.
There you go.
Liking people doesn't pay our bills. It's not what we're doing.
Not the priority, not the goal. We're okay with it. It's certainly not something we're prioritizing.
Right. And so this is why I'm saying you need different businesses. I want different business cultures, and I want a robust market and industry. So certain people that feel like they like this type of culture can go to this company, and this kind of culture can go to that company, and these companies can compete in the marketplace to see which one wins. But there are issues in corporate America where, and part of it is trying to make men and women the same. Not everybody likes the same leadership style. It's just not something that I'm interested in. I noticed the change when emails and letters went from your name, comma, and then say stuff directly to, hey, you, like culture in different companies. Hi, it's always hi or hey or blah, blah, blah. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be like, Josh, I need you to blank, 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 blank. Then it became, right. Hi, Josh, how was your weekend? Blah, 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 blah. And cool, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But you're standardizing everything but the example that you just gave, you can't move up. If you're just like hey, I just want to get to the business, I don't really want to talk, bam, bam, bam. How successful is that person going to be in the example that you just gave?
Exactly.
You can't.
Zero.
And then,
can't be.
And then what gives me a bit of just another inkling to have that idea is when it's this press conference I saw with Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, and people were asking these questions like, oh, you've got these people that work for your company and they all look like this. What do you say to people who say you should put in different people and give them different opportunities? It's like, well, we've been running things here the same way for a long time. We made a lot of money, and I don't see any reason to change that.
I'm not going to make money because other people can't do what I'm doing. All right.
And it was so beautiful to me. And I don't care if it's all white men there. I don't really care. And I don't believe that that's the case. I think that anybody that, I don't know, whatever. The point of it is, it doesn't matter if there are, and it doesn't matter if there isn't. If there is, they are successful, and success is the goal. That's the whole point,
That's the whole, yes, key.
And so but what you just talked about is one of the fundamental things for me. One of the reasons that I wrote the book is because that is what I started perceiving, is that, oh, we're whitewashing everything. We're all going to be the same. Like the country was holding companies hostage. When you say, we're not going to give you contracts or do business with you as a U.S. government unless you have your people take vaccinations, that was crazy to me.
That is crazy.
That's nuts. But people got to the point like, oh no, they should do this and this out. Yo, you're forcing people to tell their staff or their employees, yeah, go take this drug, regardless of the drug, regardless if it makes them better, regardless if it's a good thing.
Right.
That's crazy to me. And the reason why I say that is that the government and Biden, when this started to come out, it was like, oh, we're not forcing, we just strongly suggest. If the government strongly suggests anything at the federal level, it's force, because they are the monopoly of force. Right. What are we talking about here? Because if you say, oh, I don't want to do that, and they say, well, we really suggest that you should really do that. Anybody with sense is like, I think I am exposed here.
Right. Like, I don't think it's a real suggestion at all. You're saying that makes me think that if I don't do this, there will be consequences necessary to my life. Consequences
necessary to my business. That's okay. If I take business to life, then I get it. I understand.
I eat. You're like, hey, you can't eat if you don't do this, but I have to eat. Well, you can't eat if you don't do the thing I said, but I have to. All right. So you're clear what's going on.
Exactly.
I mean, technically, that's literally what force is. So you are directly forcing me. That is how, unless I'm choosing suicide, which I didn't do. So no, you are forcing me.
Crazy, man. That was one of the things that burns me the most, because look, it gets my intuition jumping, because it's like Barbie. It's like the movie Barbie to me, man. It's like you couldn't just have your world and mixed worlds and then and man stuff and woman stuff. You wanted the whole thing. You wanted the whole thing. You wanted to dumb it down. You wouldn't let the man have their own thing. And so you want the whole thing. And it has to be your way. And it's not necessarily a feminine, it's not necessarily a woman thing, because I think that there are definitely women who want to get straight down to business too and don't like all the not into.
I mean, it's just, this is a people problem. And when people go and violate the rights of other people by trying to live their lives for them and make those decisions for them, like, this is a clear overstep that it's wrong. Also unhelpful, but wrong.
And it limits our choices. That's the problem, man. It limits, I'm going to limit your choice because I'm trying to do the better thing. How does that, I don't understand that, man.
How is that related to me? You're allowed to make all your choices, but I can't make mine. Okay?
I don't choose to work at the happy, smiley place. Like, I don't have a problem being, I just want to go to work and do work. Like, there would be times, even when it's other jobs that I've had before, where people like to, mingle, mix. I'm not really a mingle, mix at work kind of person. Like, after work, we can do these things. Right now, I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm doing the stuff. Yeah, we can talk. We can have conversations here and there. And I'm not standoffish. It's just that I enjoy the fact that I can go to a place and be straight rational and get a result,
Right. That's what you're hired for. It's why you chose the place. Like, this is what I came here. I came here to use my strength in this way. I'm really good at this one area. I'm going to do this one thing, this one way that you hired me for and agreed to pay me for. And that's it. What about these extra things? I didn't get hired for that. We talked about that. I didn't agree to any of that. I'm not saying you can't do it. I am saying I'm not part of it specifically.
And if all you're trying to do when you go to work, if all you're trying to do is be liked, I mean, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is that Ursula Burns? Is that her name? Was she Hewlett HP CEO for a second? Let me see. Was it Ursula Burns? Why I'm thinking about, I think it was Ursula Burns. Yeah, I think that's her. So I guess if I'm getting the story right, Xerox. She was upper level somewhere in the company, and somebody asked her a question. They were like, what do you think about what we're doing here? And she was like, I don't really care for what we're doing here. I think it could be much better. And either she thought she was going to get fired or let go because of her answer, or she was saying that, yeah, I think I'm gonna go somewhere else because I'm just not enjoying what y'all are doing. And she ended up being a CEO because she said, and she's making this because that's the statement that kind of catapulted her into that role, because she was not fearful of, I guess, retribution or any negative penalties because of her opinion, but you got all of these people who are so closed mouths with their opinion, and they think that how could you get a promotion if you say something bad about the boss?
Right.
What? Now, some people who, to me, are immature, or they want you to talk about them in glowing terms and everything, but people who really want progress and really want to win, they look for a person with that deeper insight that may even be critical. Not necessarily critical for critical sake, but critical because they're like, hey, you're missing the bow here. This needs to go in this direction. And that's what they want. That's what I want when I'm talking to people. I don't want, hey, I agree with you. Oh, I agree with you here. Oh, I agree with you there. I agree with you all everywhere you go. I will agree with you. What do I need two people doing the same thing?
How are you adding value here? Like, I get it. Yes, you're going to be okay with whatever I'm okay with, but we don't need to both be here saying it. One's enough.
So, but yeah, I guess the whole idea that comes up from your depiction or the explanation, the business world by that person just threw me, because that is one of my things. The work world is one of my things. If it is being damaged, I don't know if you're getting it. I'm getting it. The DEI classes, the that in itself, the mandates with the injections or whatever.
Yes, it's painful and completely unhelpful.
It's completely unhelpful, and it's a con. It's a con job. It
is.
There are people who were getting paid for these DEI classes, man. Oh my goodness. So I'll just give you my example again. I had to sit through, I think these were 2 different sessions. And these were, maybe it was 1 session or 2 different sessions. And people with high degrees from some school, doctorates or whatever, masters, come in and they start talking about and history of black, this, that, and the other. Cool, whatever. But it really threw me when he was like, we know something, it was like, police killings are happening more and more. And we know this because we're seeing it more and more on television. And yeah, so the way you look, that logic just didn't sit right with me. It's
Hey,
wait, because I see something, that's the Trump logic, you know? That's
right.
Because I saw something on television more, it means that it's happening more. And like, I don't have an issue with talking about these things, but this is a fraud. This is a doctorate. You should be steeped in research. Right. Seeing television or news shows and what you perceive as an uptick in reporting about these cases is not grounds for evidence that these cases are increasing. I need more from you. That's what I need.
Right. You know better. I can see you know better. Please do better. Choose to do it. But it's hard to respect you when you refuse to do that. That's just painful to me. But also, smart people exist. We understand how teamwork exists. We know that there are certain things that bond people together and help us perform more effectively. People complain about the differences and the friction that diversity causes. And I hear you. I hear that. But you know who doesn't have significant problems with friction? At least not as significant a problem with friction, like the military. And they're very clear on how to bond people together through shared hardship. And while I don't support having to run, 20 miles in the rain when you just woke up at like 2 or 3 in the morning, I do focus on the fact that this business is here to actively do hard things effectively to deliver value for other people. There are ways to use the projects that we are supposed to be doing anyway to effectively build camaraderie. I'm like, this is what I expected when I got to my DEI training. I never got any of it. This is what I expected. I'm like, the whole purpose of this was to show that we're all human and have similar needs, goals, and values enough to work at this company. We're all here for a paycheck. We're all here to have human flourishing in our lives. Like these are things that humans do. We are going to show you how humans work. And this is how we're going to work together to achieve these human things. But that's never been the message I got. And that's never been the result of all my modules I've had to complete or the DS that I had. What do you think is happening? They're like, well, you're black. You get it. That is my point. I am the quote unquote diversity. And I don't know what you're doing here. Why? How do you think this is helpful?
Man.
Anyway, it's I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of concern, but I don't see a lot of things changing quickly. And so when people are like, you just have to support it, for the culture. I'm like, I don't think I do. Also, how is this helping the culture?
No, well, you know who is helping? It's helping those people. They get paid, man. They are getting paid.
Oh man.
It's a racket. It's race baiting. It's a racket. I mean, it's an old racket. But the way that they made it, man, it's good business. It's good business.
I mean, yes.
I don't want to go through these modules either, though, man. It's not helpful for me. And I don't take it seriously.
Look at
the company is trying to pacify. They don't really care like that. They don't. It's a commercial. It's just like, so for me being in finance, right? Cash out of pocket, tax after tax, cash out of pocket. That's what companies care about paying you. They're after taxes, cash out of pocket. You could call it an insurance plan. You can call it fringe benefits. You can call it a car. You can say you got doggy insurance. You can say you can get implants. You can get therapy. Cash, it's a bucket of money after taxes. Hey, we're going to pay you $400,000. Your salary is going to be $200,000 or whatever. $200,000 is in these other trinkets and knickknacks and doodads that make you feel good about things. But it's just money. It's just money out the door, man. So I'm not trying to make it like people look callous. I'm trying to say that business is still business at the end of the day. And no matter how much people care about you, they still have to do business, else they won't be doing business anymore.
Right? We have to do the bare minimum here. Otherwise, we won't be here to do anything. So I think that definitely has to get done.
Yeah, man. Oh, boy.
But it's just crazy. It's crazy. It is genuinely crazy to me that people can think this way, and that there are legitimate management portions, like the lower management, upper management, that operate this way. Like, this is how the government operates. This is how a lot of the government operates, and especially like the VA. Like, I know people in corporate jobs like this who are like, it's just a bunch of factions fighting between, like, nothing gets done. It's just infighting amongst the chiefs. This person's a chief of this, this person's a chief of that, and they just go back and forth. And one person says they have to do it. Another person says, you're not the boss of me. No, I don't have to do it. Nothing gets done. And that's it. That was today. Today, this is what happened. I'm like, terrible. Like, yes, this is terrible. But you have to navigate the system if you want to get paid and continue to work here. Like, that's crazy. I don't want to work there. I would quit.
I mean, so this is the benefit of a robust labor market. You can quit. If you're good, you can say, I'm leaving and I'm going to your rival. Hey, I don't like you. I'm going to Pepsi.
You're done with this.
Or you can start your own thing. There's so many problems. It's frustrating because the average voter, to me, doesn't really understand the negatives of government being so involved in business. They do not understand that it creates higher barrier to entry in certain industries. Right. So there's no competition. You say, oh, it's a monopoly. Oh, the government has put up a whole bunch of barriers to enter the market, or they made it so expensive to enter that people can't necessarily compete. Guess who would have an interest in having a higher barrier to market? Oh, the companies that already have the market share. Those are the people who would like to be like, oh yeah, the government should make it more difficult because we're doing these important things over here that no one else. This is a special territory. Only we can do this, And I got a special case on that one, that I brought up a while back. But yeah, just sterilizing and making all companies be the same based upon some unifying. Like, I get freedom and personal choice, and not being able to stab somebody at work. Those are good things, but to make people have to recognize, to me, that there are certain things that are fads in businesses, and like I said, for me, a lot of times they're driven by legal concerns. That's pretty much what it is. Oh, have I discriminated against X person, whatever this person is? Black, trans, Asian, Pacific American, blah blah blah, handicapped, gay, blind, old, young, whatever, because really I care about not getting sued. So basically, all of these problems are results of businesses being protective of keeping their business alive. And then people who don't have business are like, yeah, you see how some companies really care about us? They're clueless because these companies care about the profits and
yes.
Oh my God. Nike selling Colin Kaepernick. You see how they really care about the people? What? So,
which people? What are you talking about? All they care about are customers. By customers who are going to pay them. They really don't care. But they can't care about the things that aren't going to help them stay alive and be businesses.
No.
Not how business works. You can't go around not doing the things.
No. And here's a case. I could bring up another example real quick. Do you remember, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, Boeing had 2 MAX 787s, whatever they were, MAX 6 crashes. Yeah. Right. So I'm reading the story. I wish I could pull it up in some of my social media. And basically, CEO of Boeing was like, oh man, this is basically some things came out in their processes. Aviation, airplanes, highly regulated, maintenance and all of those things. FAA is deep in, they're in the places where these people are maintaining these aircrafts and everything, and they have specific procedures and all these checks and everything that they have to do. Which I'm not saying that that's great. I want people to do checks on planes. I'm not saying that having government in these places is the best thing. So these 2 planes crash, and basically the CEO made a statement. It's like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. We've got to tighten up X, Y, and Z. I mean, what else is he supposed to say? And then the FAA regulators were like, yeah, we're going to get in there and make sure they do this and make sure they do that. And I'm like, they just had 2 planes crash and people died. They should go out of business. This is, I mean, and I'm not, my point is that there's really Boeing, and there's, what's the one in France? What's the one, Boeing and, come on, man. You know, Airbus. There's really only Boeing and Airbus in the aircraft market, commercial not. Now, Airbus went up after that, there's sales after Boeing. But the point of it is that, look, we can't even now support. It's so much regulation and there's so much barriers to entry. How could anybody even compete with these people that are essentially propped up by the government? Like the regulators in there, the inspectors. How did you? Oh, we've got to go in there more. You were in there the first time. The planes crashed.
Yep. How did that help? They're just kind of, anyway. Yes, it's funny when people say things like that, when you know, like, that can't be the reason they're saying this. They must have an alternative. I see. They're gonna go in there and say, hey, we have to go in and fix these people, so we're gonna need more money in the budget. If you can just go ahead and pay us off, that'd be great. I'm like, there you go. This clearly can't be about helping the people involved, because those people involved, I mean, you were there the first time and you didn't help them. So you're not gonna help them out. And like, apparently, like, airlines are a utility or something like that. Like there's a bunch of, what's it called, flight attendants who have to work like so much, in the sense of like they're always trapped either in the airport or on the plane, but they're only getting paid for being on the plane. And so when you're working 24/7 but only getting paid for 8 of those hours, they're basically living in poverty. Like, there are a bunch of people who are like on the poverty line, and they're like, we should unionize and strike. But like, apparently railroaders tried that, back in the day, and there were laws for that. And so they wouldn't allow the railroad workers to strike. And then once planes became more prevalent, the government, won't say nationalized, but supports the airline industry now, to where it's illegal for flight attendants to go on strike. I was like,
yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, heard that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's illegal. Look, I don't know. I guess if you sign a contract,
I don't know, man. I mean, I get it in the military. If you go AWOL, there's a problem, and they can bring you to court and stuff and do whatever. But like, that's next level insanity to me, to have people voluntarily offering to sell their time for money, and then you're like, nope, you need to sell your time for no money just because I said so. You have to. I'm like, I don't think that's legal. I think you're actively describing slavery, and now I have a lot more reservations. What are you talking about? No, man, you need to pay me. It's like, well, we'll pay you. Here's the IOU. It'll happen.
Hold up, oh no, that was a movie. I thought somebody was getting IOUs, but no, yeah.
Man. Well, anyway, that just happened today, and I was just like, I've never heard of that. That can't be right. There's got to be something. Somebody could say like, whoa, we need to have some actual reform here, because apparently Delta's the only person that pays flight attendants for their downtime, like whenever they're like, actively working, but like happen to be not on the plane. Whoa, man.
I mean, here's where playing with money could get funny a little bit too. It's just like, lower the rate. Hey, you get more hours, but lower rate, or something like that.
Right.
So it's just, limiting choices is not a good thing. I don't think it is. And what we need to be going towards is stop doing that and teaching people and helping them exercise the muscle of choice. That's what we need to be going to. Because you can't, don't tell me that you have a country that's for individuals and freedom and you're not promoting choices. Because these things are incompatible.
This is what it is.
That's what it is.
If you don't have them, aren't free.
Exactly. And that's what I mean about going backwards, because I feel at some point in time, somebody understood this. This had to be understood. This is why these ideas came to be. They had to, I don't know if it's Ben Franklin or Thomas Jefferson or whoever was, or John Locke, those French salons or wherever they went and had these conversations about, individual rights or natural rights or whatever they want to call it. They had to understand, hey, you got to make choices though. We can't be self-determined and self-governed if we're not making choices. We have to do that. That's a necessary part of this whole thing. It's just,
exactly. It's bare minimum part. It has to happen. It has to happen this way. We have to be the ones to do it. Otherwise, this is the thing we're calling freedom is not freedom.
No, it's packaged as something else. And the bad thing about it, have you ever seen this movie? I'm sorry to bother you.
I've heard that, but I don't think I've seen it. No.
Okay. It's cool. It speaks to these points a little bit. The point I'm trying to say is that you get paid to be a slave in a sense. I don't want to get a whole, I mean, it's older movie, but it's weird too, man. It's not, you just have to see it because it's almost like I can't explain it to you. So it's about telemarketers and telemarketing. And basically, I don't know the guy's name. I can't remember his name. I think he's Nigerian. No, Stansfield. Lakeith Stansfield.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's Nigerian. But he gets this job as a telemarketer, and he gets in there and he's on the phone. And then basically he learns how to do the white voice.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so, but what he does, it's not like he's saying it. It's a whole nother voice when he's talking. So, but basically he's making all these sales, and then he makes so many sales that they send him upstairs to the big room where they making big sales. They call it like government firearms and tanks and missiles or whatever. You selling the big stuff upstairs and making big commissions. So he making all this money and kind of fall apart from his girl because she was for the culture, and his homeboys because they were like for the culture or for the downtrodden or whatever. And he meets the owner, and then he goes to the owner's house. And I don't want to ruin this, but the whole
I think of it now.
Oh, you saw?
Yeah.
So yeah, the way that they start, the whole reason I'm getting into this point is the way that they start talking about work. And I don't even know if it's the same company, but it's like, yeah, you can come work for us. We'll give you room and board. We give you clothes. We give you everything. You stay here. You stay here the whole time you work. We give you free clothes. And this the whole point is that people think freedom is, oh man, they take care of my every need. I don't have to go anywhere. I just lay here, wake up and go to work and just drink or smoke or whatever and just come home, and this is life. Isn't this life? And,
right? I'm all taken care of. They gave me a living wage. It's perfect. All I needed.
Oh my goodness. If that's how you want to do it, then that's cool. But I think there are people who will sign up for this.
Yes, those people exist. It's true.
And that to me is...
It's scary.
Yeah.
And sad. It's just...
Yeah. But I'm not surprised.
Nope.
The problem is, this is to me a boomerang effect. This is where we came from. Didn't we learn that this is what it used to be? Isn't that how it used to be?
Right.
Then it used to be people who were like paupers and everybody was kind of like just barely getting through. Isn't that where we came from? And we were like, hey, we want control of our own lives and we want to, have independence. Didn't we do good stuff with this at one point? Didn't this happen? Am I missing?
Is it me? It feels like it's not me. I don't know. I'm pretty sure we tried this, didn't like it, said we would never do it again. It seems to be doing it again. You say no one?
Exactly. But am I mistaken? Because I feel like people understood that at a base level. Like right. not even the smartest people, basic people. Like that to me that's the troubling piece to me. Like, cause I don't think that we have an abundance of the type of people that that was like 100 years ago. I just don't know, like even like in Black culture, I don't think that you have the caliber of people that could come out of slavery and then become business owners in like 10 to 20 years. And like, I don't know if you have that caliber of person to be able to do that through all of the issues that they had to go through.
Right. It's hard because everybody didn't do it, but someone did, right? There were a few people who were able to come through, but because it was a skill set and because there were biased communities around them, things didn't all, work out that way. So it's just, it's frustrating because there's not a lot of people like that today. Like people today don't all have the entrepreneurial spirit or, skill set to be able to build up something from nothing.
Yeah, I guess I'm even thinking about going from slavery to learning how to read and like being boy, man. See, here's how you can see the indicator of why bad ideas are bad. There are people who dislike Booker T. Washington and call him like a coon or whatever, right? And if you listen to or read his book, he's showing you, hey, I grew up as a slave with no shoes and no stuff. I did all the things that I could do. I walked across states to go to school. I just kept working. I never lost the idea of work. I never got into this whole thing about people owe us this and owe us that. We just worked the show, but the whole idea is that, oh man, he was a sucker. Wait a minute, this is the guy that went and got life. He went and got his life. And he ran a university, and taught kids how to make bricks for a living. I mean, not for a living, but just they became professional at making bricks at Tuskegee University. He taught them basic, simple things. Like one of his things was cleanliness. This is something that people don't even understand. Some people don't understand. Cleanliness is a thing about civility. It's a pride in your body. One of his things was brushing your teeth, taking a bath every day. Things. Some people think like, oh man, these are just ideas that people just came up with arbitrarily. So these things are tied together. They interlinked. It's not. It's when you do the A goes to B to C to D thing, you start tracing these ideas, these traditions, these things back to, oh, here are the reasons why people do these things. And I guess I kind of all the way around in a circle just to say, look, these people were incredible. Some of these people were incredible.
Right. Yeah. And they don't get the credit. And then it's crazy to think that if we had to recreate some of their achievements today, that, the bulk of humanity would not be able to even come close to any of that. And that we despaired some of these people. We're just like, oh, they were terrible. Nothing they did was right. They weren't perfect, but a lot of what they did was good. Let's acknowledge, the things that they did do well. And that doesn't happen all the time.
Absolutely, man. I'm just disappointed. I'm just so disappointed in leadership because I don't see any resemblance of that kind of mentality, that kind of leader. I don't see, where? Because somebody just pointed to me. Like, if anybody sees this, like, just send a message and just say, hey, they have these leaders, these moral leaders, these ethical leaders, I see it in business, don't get me wrong. But to me, business is a little easier because you don't have to play the whole game. You can just play part of the game. And what I mean by that is, like, I can just get the money. I can get the money. I can do the things to attract the revenue and all of that. But I don't have to worry about the people issue and integrity, how you treat people. That's the whole game.
Right.
You gotta just balancing the money making. That's the easy thing. Okay, now balance money making with balancing people. Oh wow, I'm saying how you treat people.
Another layer of complexity over and over and over again.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking, where is that? Where, like, you don't have none of that energy. Who? It doesn't have to be a black person. Who?
Think one person.
One. Jordan Peterson? No. No, not maybe in I think he's probably one of the closest that we got, to be honest with you, in a sense. I mean, and maybe not, but
I don't. That's a high bar. That's and it's a high bar. I mean, now we just start talking through historic figures. Now, do you remember that one guy that one time? But how many other people were like him and did this thing? I don't know. There were a lot of other people, man. It's really just him. Like,
I mean, you don't even have Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. So okay, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington.
I mean, Nelson Mandela tried a lot. He got real close. He did a lot of things.
Okay,
and there's got to be other like local. I don't know enough history to like point out all the other people who came through. But all I'm saying is that what people like Booker T. Washington did is a huge achievement, and that's something that's not common. It's not something you're going to stumble into. It's not a mistake. If this happened, it happened intentionally, and it happened in a way that like deserves to be studied and learned so we can repeat it. And I want to see more people have that same sense of responsibility, the sense of integrity to be able to build these things up again.
Yeah. I mean, I would be more encouraged if I could come up with one name. Like, I just want one.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And really, I should ask for two, but one would be good enough.
Right.
I mean, everything else is just, it's all a joke.
It's helpful to put things in context, and it's helpful to learn from people who walk the walk, and God will rehab them, and them will we admire.
Yeah, man. So I don't know. Maybe I had to research that and figure out. I mean, I'm thinking it's an error in my awareness right now, so I'm gonna go out and see if there's anything to be found out there. Cause
okay,
yeah, man. So I think that's pretty much all I got. Unless you got anything else, man. You still ain't write anything yet, though.
Man, I've not written anything. Like, I've written lots of notes. I'm like, that is not the same. No, I've been fully fleshed out yet. Like, dang, nope.
Okay, all right.
When I get something that's worthwhile and not just like a paragraph, I'm like, all right, I got a whole complete thought that I'll let you know.
All right, cool.